We live believing that the world is ours, that man owns it all. But the truth is, we share this world with so many living beings who also have a lot of emotion, who have a lot of heart. The least we can do is live by what we preach, by giving back, by being kind. And that's what I believe that the world needs today. In a little way, it's what we are doing here, and it's what we've dedicated our lives to: kindness. Hi, my name is Sanjana Madappa. I'm one of the trustees of Second Chance Sanctuary, which is an animal welfare organization based out of Bangalore. I've been doing this for the last 11 years. I started my journey in animal welfare in 2013. Second Chance Sanctuary was founded with the aim of giving a second chance to dogs that are abandoned on the streets, that are being mistreated, cruelty cases, dogs that are considered to be aggressive, but the term is very loosely used, and therefore there is a lot of stigma attached to it. Our main forte is rehabilitation of these dogs that are considered aggressive, what they're calling these days ban breeds. It was about breaking those myths and giving those kinds of dogs a second chance. We are the only organization in the country that works on rehabilitation of aggression cases. They are rehabilitated to a point where they can live completely safely in a community with a family. Since I started in 2013. We have rescued and rehomed approximately 6,000 to 6,500 dogs. My journey in animal welfare was actually more of an accident. I used to be an equestrian sports person, which basically means I used to compete in dressage and show jumping. I did on a national level. Unfortunately, in 2012, I had a car accident where I broke my neck. So it was a choice not to go back into something I had done for pretty much all of my life. I didn't realize exactly how hard it hit me to have to take that decision. My passion has always been animals. In February of 2013, Feb 25th to be exact, I got a call in the evening about a Rottweiler that had been locked up in a bathroom in a factory in a very remote part of Bangalore. There was a lot of stigma attached to the breed, not a lot of people owned them. So I went there at 9 o'clock at night, ended up finding this Rottweiler. They were doing the best that they could. They were scared of him. He was, every time like you'd talk to him or you'd make eye contact with him, he'd growl. So what they had done is they had thrown over packets of biryani and eggs and milk and curd, and they had left the tap on a little bit so he had water. In the middle of all of this mess was this beautiful Rottweiler who was sitting over there. The next morning I went back, I picked him up, and he came home to me. While I was already working with this organization, I hadn't actually really thought about what it is that I wanted to do in animal welfare. I think that journey of mine started with Diego. I named him Diego, the Rottweiler I rescued. He was a very aloof Rottweiler. He didn't want to interact with people. He didn't want to kind of form a bond with anyone. So it took a couple of months, and then suddenly one day I was alone at home, and Diego came up to me and he put his head into my lap. He started growling. I was convinced I was going to be like a cliched headlines the next day. I was completely convinced that was going to happen. But I decided, okay, might as well take the plunge, started petting him. And his growling got more vocal, but I realized at that time that his tail was wagging like he was going 100 miles an hour at that point of time. His tail was just wagging non-stop. What that also brought about was a realization that there are a lot of misconceptions and lack of awareness and lack of knowledge about these breeds and how they express themselves. I found myself wanting to get up in the morning every day to see how much progress I could make with this dog and see if I could form a connection and see if I could forge that bond. I didn't realize it, but I really needed Diego. I don't think I rescued him. I think he rescued me. Along this journey, I also found out that it was one of Bangalore's probably worst kept secrets that if there was a dog that was considered aggressive, the vets were kind of forced to euthanize the dogs, because otherwise the owners would threaten to kill the dogs using methods like poisoning or beating or stabbing or leaving them on railway tracks. There was no place where dogs like this could go to kind of be rehabilitated and have a safe space. So that is actually how Second Chance Sanctuary came about. It came about as a result of Diego directly. It is in his memory that it exists today. My most memorable rescue is my indie, Chujo. He was always like my rock. He was just always there. I have always been fascinated by Rottweilers. right from the time I was a kid. This was before I knew about the ills of breeding. I set aside some money and saved up for a few months to be able to put a down payment on a Rottweiler puppy from Kerala. In that gap of waiting for my Rottweiler puppy to come, we had a plumber who used to kind of do odd jobs around our house. He suddenly showed up at our doorstep with this tiny, tiny, tiny puppy. He actually got run over. When I say run over, he was in between all four of the wheels and this truck went over him, and our plumber kind of freaked out, so picked him up and said, okay, we got to take him to the dog amma. Dog amma was my mum. He was pale. I think he was probably very anemic. I said, okay, fine, I'll take care of him till he's old enough, till he's vaccinated, and then I'll go drop him off at the shelter. So he was curled up in my lap while I was driving, and as I pulled up to the gates of the shelter, I don't know what it was, when I looked down at him, he just woke up and he looked up at me, and there was so much trust over there. There was just so much, just like blind trust that I know you won't do anything to hurt me. I know you'll take care of me. I trust you. I just couldn't leave him there. So I turned the car around and I came back home. Chujo stayed with me for 13 years. He was my companion. He was with me in my car crash. I named him Chujo because it was just the juxtaposition of how cute he was versus how terrifying the name was. I tell people that it's really not about the breed of the dog. And it's really not about, no matter how passionate you are about a breed. For me, there was no question. There was no question about giving up Chujo and leaving Chujo in a shelter just so I could get my dream dog. Diego was my heart, but Chujo, he was my soul. We are the end of the sewage pipe. We're cleaning up the mess that everyone is creating, but there's going to be no solution to it unless the laws change. And that is where we face, I think, most of our pushback, that even when we try to get fair breeding norms, breeding laws implemented, we face roadblocks because the illegal breeding industry is so strong and it's so huge in the country, and it's a multi-million-dollar business. We can't even change those laws. Animal cruelty, where in countries abroad where it's now considered a pretty serious offense, it's jailable, as well as there are heavy fines levied on people who commit animal cruelty. In India, it's still a slap on the wrist. It's not even a slap on the wrist. There's just so much of apathy and lack of awareness around this issue. That is primarily one of the biggest challenges we face, and that's what we've been slowly trying to change. It's coming, very slowly, but it's coming. In 2013, when I set up the first shelter, it was on just about 4,000 square foot, and we had space for about 20 to 25 dogs. And at that point of time, we thought 20 to 25 dogs was like a huge amount. Today, we've had to expand to accommodate 80, 90 dogs at any given point of time. We did 2 or 3 adoptions back then. We considered it a good month. But today, 10 years later, 11 years later, good month on an average, we'll do about 20 to 22 adoptions. In some great months, we've done 60, 70, 80 adoptions. And Bangalore especially, I think, is right now leading in the fact that people are choosing to come and adopt rather than buy, which is why we're seeing so many breeders having to shut down, which is, yay, great Bangalore. I mean, like, we're there, we're kind of killing it. We primarily are supported through public donations for this. We have a great campaign where you can sponsor a meal for a day. You can sponsor one particular dog's food for a month. We have people who've actually done wedding registries now. So instead of taking gifts for their weddings, we have people who have actually sent our link saying, no gifts, please donate instead to this organization. We've had people do it for their kids' birthdays, and people will bring dog cakes to the center as well, so that the humans get their cake and then the dogs also get their cakes. The support we get from the public for our funding is invaluable. We have been trying over the last 10, 12 years to try and increase that awareness even to corporates, because corporates themselves are not aware that they can donate to animal welfare and we can give a tax exemption. We do fall under the CSR bracket. Whatever adoptions we do, we normally get double or triple the number of dogs being abandoned, cruelty cases being reported. We just don't have the physical bandwidth or the space to take in all of these dogs. We're always faced with this very hard choice of saying which is the more dire case that requires our attention, which means that we're essentially choosing to help one animal over another. We want to create a sanctuary. We want to be able to have or buy a large-ish piece of land, maybe a little bit away from civilization. And we want to be able to create a sanctuary for any animal that needs it. We want it to be a peaceful safe space for any animal that needs it. As of now, we're working only with dogs, but we want to expand to cats, to birds, to snakes, to pigs, all sorts of urban wildlife. Basically make it a home for any of them. That is the dream, I think, for Second Chance Sanctuary. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has travelled, from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. Through my journey, I have come to believe that I am the river.